Hi there folks, welcome to another edition today. I'm here in the park, I'm opposite two amazing ponds. It's not the nicest day, but it's not too bad either. It's a bit of blue sky, got some deer around the corner. So if you hear anything really loud and deep, that'll be the stag deers calling it around this time of year. But yeah, that's where I am, and this is the weather today. Anyhow, on this video, as you've probably seen the title, I'm looking at diet and health and some of my own pointers, some of my own lessons that I've learnt through diet. So really, that's what I want to be talking about today. So yeah, that's basically what I'm interested at the moment. I think we've all got different health issues. We're all trying to figure out our diets. So really what I started to do, here we go, look, you can hear the deer in the background, it's really deep. So what I first liked to do was look at foods in terms of acidity and alkaline pH values, and that helped a bit, but really I needed to look deeper into things. So what's really made a difference for me is breaking foods down into like mainly estrogen forming foods or testosterone. So for example, for the estrogen forming foods, I've got things like peanuts, hazelnuts, almonds, flaxseed, yeast, beer, milk, soy, sunflower seeds. Testosterone, got things like Brazil nuts, sweet chestnuts, macadamia nuts, eggs, white meat, fish, even red meat, pumpkin seeds, yams, cassavas, coconut yams, and then of course you've got baby mushrooms and original soy Osaka from Osaka in Japan. Now basically these foods, they don't actually produce steroids, they actually react and cause a chemical reaction in your body which actually helps you produce testosterone. And with things like egg whites and fish, the oils in them actually help transform those hormones to different parts of the body where you need them. I found out recently as well that there is a problem with general oil we get. Basically it's oxidized. You know, when you've got foods like blueberries and red grapes and pomegranates, and they're called antioxidants, well that's what they're fighting against, is basically most of the oils that we have. So really you're looking for oils that have got a special substance in them so they haven't been oxidized. I also found out with drinking warm milk that can give you colds and can give you all sorts of headaches and congestion problems, because it's got a few things in there that are at too high percentages for humans. They're meant to be for calf or baby goats consumption. So that's something to look into as well. However, things like produce like yogurt, cheese, butter are okay because they've gone through some sort of fermentation process. So when I have those foods, they don't really cause me bother, but I haven't drunk milk for years, and do you know what? I can't remember the last time I come down with a serious case of flu or cold. So that's something to consider. So looking at other ways of diet, I'm looking at how to make diet more interesting. And for example, I used to do smoothies, which I'll be doing again once I get a mixer, but I normally use like a peas protein, and then I add honey, yogurt, Brazil nuts, eggs, oatmeal, blueberries, red grapes, pink Himalayan salt. And I really find that the mixture of the oatmeal and the actual eggs that are raw in there produce a really nice consistency. And the first time I had it, the texture in my mouth was absolutely amazing, and the flavours, it's almost like when you activate oatmeal, they produce like their own milk and their own creamy substance. So if you've got like frozen fruits added in there, it actually blends it down and breaks it up and puts it into a really nice consistency. And then I had like an example of like a nice brunch that I can do, which is healthy, which is well, apart from the coffee, but you grab a cheat somewhere in the middle. So things like I'd have like maybe a banana yogurt with blueberries, some other berries, and then some salt in that. And then I'd have something which is very traditional English, which is called bubble and squeak. which is basically mashed potatoes or boiled potatoes mixed with cabbage, and it's normally left over from the meal on the night before, and you can basically fry that in a pan with butter rather than using oil. Then you can have, I prefer poached eggs. So we've got a friend again. If he comes into view, I'll pause over and show you this stag, because he's going to be pretty huge. It's like he's got trees on his head. Poached eggs are the ones I normally go with. Out of all the eggs that you can make, poached eggs will give you most of the nutritions, much more than any other eggs like scrambled or fried or hard boiled. It loses a lot of the potency, but with poached eggs you're getting the real egg there. And the trick with poached eggs is not to underdo them, but don't overdo them, otherwise they'll turn into like a boiled egg. So 2 and a bit minutes on like a 3 or 4 heat on the saucepan is about right. And then I'd have like 2 slices of white toast, baked beans, and in that baked beans I'm going to fry it with some saucepan it with some butter, turmeric, cayenne pepper, paprika, and curcumin as well. I found out really this morning that curcumin is very anti-pancreatitis and is probably good for a lot of the other organs, so that's a good thing to have in large amounts. If you can get some empty capsules, you can grind up the curcumin and put it in there, get it from the seed and organic. And then yeah, included in this I'd have, like fried in butter in a frying pan, I'd have some fresh tomatoes and baby mushrooms. Tomatoes have got a very good type of citric acid, scorbic acid it's called. It's really good for bone problems, and it's really good for muscular and sort of back disc problems and joint problems. It really does help. And then for a lunch or late lunch, I'd either have spinach, broccoli or cabbage, either salmon or chicken breast, and normally white rice. Now you might think to yourself, how come he's not talking about white toast or brown toast or brown rice? Well, there's a thing in both of those things in the husk called phytic acid, and if you don't treat those properly, they can actually cause you a lot of problems, health problems. You won't absorb a lot of the food that you're eating, and it can actually do you harm. So you can't do much about brown bread, but what you can do with brown rice is soak it for 24 hours in spring water, and it's amazing when you go back the next day to look at it, it's more or less bleached itself. So that's the way of getting the husk, and it's still a healthy rice by itself. And another good one is, which I had yesterday, was stuffed peppers. I actually had a mixture of onions and garlic, and then I boiled down some sweet horse chestnuts and made a mix and put it in there. You could also add things like cheese and yogurt as well. And then for an evening meal, I either have like pulses or beans, normally potatoes or yams, and then either rice or chicken on top. So that's the sort of things that I'm interested in there for my diet. Now, a few years ago, I actually was lucky enough to communicate through YouTube with a fella called Stephen Hyland. He's in the Guinness Book of Records for the most pull-ups in half an hour. The guy's incredible. He's 64 years old now, but he looks really young for his age. He looks like he's in his 30s or 40s, and he's in really good shape. So check his videos out on YouTube. You'd be amazed at what he can do. So he's like a sort of marathon runner in the sort of pull-up world, basically. Now, what he was saying to me, which was quite interesting, you'd think a guy like that, because he's quite well built as well, you'd think, oh, he's gonna, in his diet, he's gonna have a lot of like red meats and a lot of meats every day. But in fact, it was the opposite. He says he doesn't have red meat. He has white meat about once or twice a week, and likewise with fish, maybe once or twice a week. But most of the days he's actually eating vegetarian, so that's something to think about as well. Now, obviously, because I'm kind of like limited my diet and what I used to have, you've got to have things to make up for what you can't have. So one of the ways to go is to look at your desserts and really look into what you can make nice. So for example, I'd boil up some sweet chestnuts, add some sugar to that, or a bit of honey preferably, and a little bit of salt to bring out the flavour. And then that you can have that as a sauce that goes onto cakes, which is really nice. Or you can basically have that as a sauce that goes into like a lemon custard tart as the base. I would imagine you could also mix it quite nicely into like a cake mix as well. Another good one, which is actually good for you, marshmallows. So if you have a fondue of chocolate with those. And my real cheat meal, well, it's not really a meal, is jellied sweets. I love those. So maybe once a week I'll get a bag of those, or once a fortnight. But yeah, too much sugar is no good as well. Like a good friend said to me, all good things in moderation. So before I go, I'd just like to say, when it comes to diet and what we put in our bodies, it's really good to do your own due diligence and research. And hopefully you might take on board some of these tips that I've given you. But I would love to hear about your favourite recipes. Blimey, there he is. I'll show you in a minute. I'd love to hear about your favourite recipes and your opinions about this video. And please, yeah, just let me know what you think about it and what your ideas for a good diet for yourself. Anyway, I don't know if you can see him. There he is. He's making a lot of noise. Look at him run. And now it's like look at this. He's keeping his harem in order. He really is. This is his group, and he's basically saying, keep your distance. And for me, these are the animals of the oak tree, and he sounds like an oak tree when he's making those calls with his miniature oak tree on his head. Very powerful. You know, I've passed another stag that's had maybe 20-30 females in his harem, and you know, I think this is quite a young stag. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and it's turned into a bit of a nature video at the end, but there you go. It's all interesting, and look forward to seeing you on the next podcast.